this is Mike with the NetPicks Options Fast Track. This is the weekly recap video for Friday, January 22. We just wrapped up a pretty wild week in the markets. It was a roller coaster ride from the get-go. We saw big moves to the downside to start the week. We wrapped up the week with a pretty big rally, so there was just a ton of profits to be booked this week, and I'll show you some of the trades that we were able to close out in just a second. Before we get over to those charts, just let me give you some quick thoughts on the overall market conditions heading into next week. So you can take a look at this daily chart of SPY. We started out the week on a sour note. I mean, we saw a big move to the downside, and heading into Wednesday's session, we got all the way down to 181 on SPY. Pretty nasty move. At one point during the day on Wednesday, we were down between 500 and 600 points on the Dow. Pretty nasty move. Then somebody flipped the switch, and Wednesday afternoon we saw a big rally off of the lows. We didn't quite get back to positive on the session, but the lows were in for the week. And we spent the last 2 days just rallying to the upside with a lot of gains pretty much across the board. There were some leaders, energy names really led the charge. We'll take a look at those in just a second. So now heading into next week, we are breaking some key resistance levels. We broke the 8-period exponential moving average on most of the index products that we track. So now it's the bulls are back into control. We'll see if that's sustainable. Was it just a dead cat bounce, or are we going to continue to rally? Time will tell, but it looks like on the major US index ETFs, it looks like we're headed back towards the 20-period moving averages, both the simple and the exponential moving averages, which you can see all the way up around 194. Not saying that's going to happen first thing next week, but it looks like we're kind of back on a quest to get up to those levels. It doesn't matter which index we look at. If we switch the symbol here from SPY to QQQ, the story really remains the same. This is the Nasdaq Etf. We also broke up through that exponential moving average, closed right near the highs of the day here today on Friday. So very, very important to see that. The volume has been very, very good this week. So there's definitely conviction behind this move, and it looks like the lows are in for the near term. The one index that kind of lagged behind was the Dow. We didn't quite get up above that 8-period exponential moving average. That's important to note heading into next week. If we do get the market to head lower, we'll probably come back and say, the Dow was the tell. We saw some lagging behind, and we just were not able to break up above those areas of resistance. So again, some levels that I'm watching for next week: the 20-period simple and exponential moving averages on these major U.S. index products. If we do roll back over to the downside, the lows that we put in on Wednesday are the areas of support that we'll want to keep a very close eye on. Now, the wild card is really that we're heading into earnings season. A lot of the big tech names will be releasing their earnings over the next couple of weeks. At NetPicks, we do not like to hold positions through earnings, so you'll want to be cautious of that on any individual equities that you're trading. For us, we like to be out of any trades 24 hours before the earnings are out, and then we don't get back in sync. We don't take any new trades until 24 to 48 hours after the statement is released. The reason for that, oftentimes when you see those earnings numbers come out, you can see 10 to 20% moves in the equities overnight. And it's way too much risk. Sure, when it happens in your favor, you can look at some pretty large gains immediately. But if they don't work out in your favor, you're also facing some large losses overnight. I don't like that flip of the coin scenario. I would much rather be patient, let things settle in a little bit after the earnings numbers are out. Give it a day and a half, and then we'll jump back in, get in sync, and we'll go from there. So that's how we'll handle names like Apple, which is releasing earnings on Tuesday of next week. We've got Google coming up, Amazon coming up. We're not going to carry positions through those earnings numbers, so just important to point that out, especially if you're newer to trading our methodology. So let's jump over and walk through some of the trades that we were able to take this week. Let me shrink down my quotes tab so we can see some bigger views of the charts. Let's start out with energy, because energy really led the charge this week, and it shouldn't be that surprising to many of us. We've been talking about this with our students for the last couple of months. The markets have been so overdone on the downside on energy. I mean, we've just gotten beat up on many of these names. However, we got that low to be put in here earlier in this week, and just saw some really nice movement back and forth. So let's walk through Chevron here. Important to point out that there was no guesswork involved. Everything was crystal clear, laid out for us in real time. Let's walk through the trades from this week. We had the short trade that we talked through in an earlier video this week. We got overbought. We got our short trade to trigger in right here. You had another chance to get on board the trade a couple days later. So there was multiple opportunities to catch this trade. We booked a $500 profit or a 91% return. If all you did was take that trade over the past week, that's pretty incredible profit, right? 500 bucks, and a 91% return. You're doubling your money essentially there in a couple days. That's a great return. But it got even better for us because Wednesday we got that bottom to be put in place. We got oversold on percent R. We got to close above our signal line, and that long trade triggered in. We came up, we quickly hit target, another $250 worth of profit. Okay, so two trades that were closed out this week on Chevron, and we're almost at $800 of profit trading one contract. Remember, to trade one contract, we're talking about a couple $100 of capital, so you can do this with a very small account size. Just looking at this chart, the last three trades over the past week and a half to 2 weeks, that's three full winners in a row. You can see the full winner right here. Full winner on the downside, full winner on the upside. That's over $1,000 of profit, almost $1,100 of profit trading one contract on three trades in 2 weeks. We're checking the charts in 20 minutes or less a day. So when you start to approach $1,100 of profit, all of a sudden you're supplementing an income, you're replacing an income, and that's exactly what we're looking for. This is not cherry picking trades. This is showing you all of the trades in the sequence. So let's take a look at a couple of the other energy names that we track. Exxonmobil was another one that we talked about earlier in the week. We had our short trade, $330 of profit on the short trade. Get my pointer here. So we got overbought on percent R. We got to close below our signal line, but the market decided to pull back off of overbought levels, and we hit full target. So an 89% return there, in and out in about 3 days. That's a great position for us. We followed that up. We got oversold, got to close above our signal line. We got a long trade to trigger, and there's another $200 of profit. Okay, so the two trades that we closed out this week. Here's another $530 of profit on ExxonMobil. So on Chevron and Exxon, there's two energy products. If all you did was trade those two names this week, we're looking at almost $1,700 of profit. The system is paying for itself in multiples here this week. If all you did was trade two names, that's pretty darn exciting. Here again, we didn't even go back and cover this trade from a couple weeks ago. The last three trades on Exxon, three full winners. It doesn't mean every trade is going to be a winner. We're going to have losers along the way. But when the markets get this active, this is really when you want to make up a lot of ground and get ahead of the game. So there's just a ton of profit here. What about XLE? What if you don't want to be overly exposed to one individual energy name? Well, here's XLE, the actual energy ETF. We wrapped up the week on a pretty positive note here. Let me zoom in here. Sure, we did have a loser. No doubt about it. This one triggered in. It ended up stopping us out. Okay, our loss was just under 200 bucks. Okay, so we took about a 40% loss. So it's key to point out that on our losers are smaller than our wins. So when you get that type of scenario, one winning trade is able to recoup a loss and then some. So you could have one winner and one loss and you're still up money. That's exactly the formula that we want to use. So we did wrap up the week. We actually closed out of this trade yesterday with a full target. So we wiped out the loser. We recovered the whole entire loss and finished up on the week on XLE. Okay, so just with the energy products alone, there's just a ton of profit here this week. Just a great position to be in. What about the index ETFs? We talked about SPY on the daily chart, but we don't trade the daily chart. We trade this chart here, the range chart. So we did just close out of a full winner here today as well. So we got into this trade Wednesday afternoon when the market started to rally. We got oversold on percent R. We got to close above our signal line. The trade triggered in, and this one was just closed out this morning. So we were into this trade Wednesday afternoon. We were out first thing on a Friday morning. It's a great trade. In and out, couple of days, booking our profit, another couple $100 of profit. And again, the key here, I get these comments all the time, Mike, I don't have a $10,000 account. I don't have a $100,000 account to trade. How do I take these positions? Because we're using the options and the leverage that they offer, we're able to get in and out of these trades for a couple $100 per contract. That's pretty powerful. You can do this with a very small retail account. Okay, that's why I love these products so much. And now here's the great part. What's my plan for next week on SPY? I have no idea what SPY is going to do. The market closed pretty strong here today, but all I do is I wait for the system to give me another setup. I wait for the calculator to print me an entry point in real time. We're approaching an overbought level. We're not quite there yet. If we get any type of buying at all on Monday, we're going to hit an overbought level. And if that's the case, then we'll be looking for the market to pull back midweek. And we could potentially be looking at a short setup. I don't have to stare at this chart all weekend to analyze this and draw trend lines and Fibonacci levels. We don't have to worry about that. We're just going to wait for the calculator to print us a setup early next week. And until that happens, we're going to sit on hands. The great part about sitting on hands after a full winter, well, you're sitting on profit, and that's exactly what we like to see. So that's SPY. First Solar. A lot of my students love these solar names. So let's take a look at First Solar. Here again, the last two trades that you're seeing on the chart. We got oversold on %R. We had a long trade. The first attempt, it flat out didn't work. Okay, you can see we triggered in right here. We had our first target in place, target 2, and a stop below. It flat out lost. Okay, so again, we're going to have losers along the way, but here's the great part about it. We got to Wednesday afternoon. We were still oversold. We gave it a second attempt. We triggered into a second long trade right here, and this one was off to the races. We booked the full target first thing this morning. So now all of a sudden, between the two trades here this week, we had a loser and a winner. We still made money. That takes a lot of the pressure off our trading. We don't have to win 90% of the time to make money. Okay, so just a great position to be in. Just a ton of profit adding up here, just with a handful of names. What about some of the global ETFs? What about EEM? This is the Emerging Markets ETF. Okay, so we did get oversold. We've been oversold for weeks now on many of these global ETFs, and they were definitely due for a bounce, and we finally started to get that. This one actually triggered in yesterday. We triggered in yesterday afternoon. We have our targets in place. Let me get my data box up so we can take a look at those exact levels. And let me drag that over here so we can see it. So our entry point, go ahead and resize that box so we can see all the numbers here. So the entry point was at 28.65. Our targets are in place, 29.40 and 29.73. The stop is at 27.60. The great part about this, heading into next week, my plan is already mapped out for me. Again, I don't have to spend hours this weekend, coming up with a plan of attack for EEM. Come Monday morning, my targets are in place, my stop is in place, and I'm just going to manage this trade accordingly. Okay, great time to be involved in the markets. And we're sitting on a small profit there on EEM. So as you can see, just from a handful of these trades, I mean, this is the type of trading that we're looking for on a regular basis. Heading back to SPY. All right, so as you can see, just a great time to be involved in the markets. Looking at SPY. Do I care on SPY whether we're headed higher or lower? I really don't. I'm just going to wait for the calculator to give me another setup. So I could go through chart after chart. I don't want to tie up hours of your weekend reviewing every single trade. This is the type of pattern that we see. Are we going to have wins? Yes. Are we going to have losses? Yes. In the end, because we're winning more than we're losing and our winners are larger than our losers, that's the magic formula. That's what you need as a trader to be successful. And that's exactly what we're getting here in the markets. So the markets were super active this week. We don't know if they're going to slow down going forward, nor do we care. We're just going to continue to take the trades as they come. Just on the trades that I showed you on a handful of products here today, we're talking about over $2,500 of profit. I had students here that were sending me emails. They're already paying for the system. They bought the system a little over a week ago. The system's already paid for itself just based on the results this week. So we really would love to have you join our team and start to experience some of these profits along with us. We expect the markets to be very, very active here going forward over the next coming months. So it's just a prime time to be active in the markets. If you have any questions on any of the trades that I covered today, feel free to send me an email directly, mike@netpicks.com. We'll be live every day next week, so I'll be back recording some videos walking you through what we end up doing with next week's market, but no doubt about it, just wrapped up a phenomenal week, so really thrilled with the performance. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we look forward to talking with you first thing next week.